Hello, this is Michelle Allman, and this is
Alex Allman.
And we are here again with the Red Notebook podcast. I think we're on episode number maybe 4 or 5 now.
This is 5, I think.
Number 5. All right, cool. So we are on a roll. So this is our podcast where we're just talking family, faith, and business, family business, all kinds of really cool, just random conversations. It's kind of like we're sitting down in the living room, chit-chatting, mom and daughter having a little convo, little coffee convo. So today what I wanted to talk about, which is, something I've been thinking about, is I was working out this morning, doing my usual obsessive cardio workout. And I was watching the news, which is always a mistake to do in the morning because it's like a massive buzzkill. But was thinking about just like the perspective of your generation and how you're seeing the world right now. Like I'm sitting there watching the news and, being 52 years old. Oh, wait, am I 52 or 51? I think I'm 51. Yeah, 51, I think. I'm just going to go with it. So watching the news, and there's the ways I process stuff, right? Because when you've seen things or you've been around or you've been in business or whatever the case may be, you process information differently and you make a connection differently as to the why, like what's going on. And it sometimes to me, and everyone's different too, because I've seen people older than me that, you think would have some like logic or strategic thinking. They don't. But when I look at that stuff, I string the whys together.
Yeah.
I always am curious about the intent behind things. So what I'm curious about is talking a little bit like how your generation, and you're different than other people in your generation.
I was going to say, I think a little differently than most people my age.
But I'm really curious, like not only what your perspective is on, and this isn't political, this is about the vibe, like how people feel about the world, and maybe, you know what I mean? Like, why have we gotten in a place, your thoughts on why we've gotten so divided?
A lot of my generation's very cynical about the future. Like, there's not very much, and it does stem down to very political things, because all you ever see on the internet nowadays is politics. Let's be honest. Like, Facebook has turned into this political blog where people share all of their unwarranted opinions and feelings on your thoughts. Like, if you share an article because you think it's funny, someone's going to comment and tell you it's fake, or someone's going to comment and tell you something about it. And it's just a very interesting world. So a lot of my friends, like, they have this idea that I never want to raise kids on this earth. Why would I ever want to bring somebody into such a terrible place? And it's very funny.
Right.
Because I think people's perspectives are very skewed. If we give ourselves a little perspective, we didn't grow up in an era where people are fighting for their life because they can't make enough money to buy food. We're not going through the Great Depression. We've never faced any sort of slavery in our lifetime. We've literally never faced real hardships.
Yeah.
And people think that because there is a man in office who has a loud mouth and says things that are crazy, that the world is ending. And it's like, have you ever looked at politics once? Like, either side? Like, everybody's crazy.
Yeah.
All these politicians are crazy. It doesn't matter what side they're on.
Well, and some of the stuff that gets said is straight up nuts.
Yeah. Well,
it's straight up nuts on both sides.
People are just
straight up nuts.
People in my generation are just very cynical about the world.
Well,
like, there's a lot of cynicism.
Do you think it comes from entitlement? Because let's face it, you're right. People who have never traveled, who have never seen true utter poverty, who have never seen what true adversity is like. Like we have, even and I'm not suggesting that I know, although I know what it's like not to have, but I'm not suggesting I know how hard it is for a lot of people out there. But what I am suggesting is that
it's perspective.
It's perspective. And there are people who have lived through horrible, whether it be abuse or other situations that have made it because of mindset. There are people who have had very little, but let's face it, good Lord, our government gives a lot of people a lot of stuff. And even in areas that are low income, there's dish satellites on their trailer. I mean, come on. That is not
it's
struggling.
Perspective. It's all about perspective. And I think that a lot of people in my generation don't really understand what it takes to produce a lot of what they ask for or what they think is a right, per se. and it's not necessarily that everyone feels like you should give everyone everything, but I think a lot of my generation feels this sense of like, I'm owed an explanation on this. I'm owed an opportunity that maybe I didn't earn, or I'm owed all this stuff. It's a lot of the I deserve it mentality without any sort of backing. And it's very interesting because if you look at the view of the world and as a whole, my generation feels like the earth is falling apart. We're dying slowly. We're killing off every animal on the planet. We're destroying everything. That's how a lot of our generation feels.
Do you think that's true of most of your generation, or do you think that's true of a part of your generation?
I should
the
correct
loud
myself.
Part of the generation.
The online personas, the social media people, the ones who are very active online.
Yeah.
Because that's not necessarily everybody, but when you look at it from that perspective, you feel like it's everybody.
And let's also be honest here. We know that this conversation, there's going to be something somebody has to say about it, because somebody has something to say about everything. Yeah. And so, it's interesting because I think that not often enough there is just, fair dialogue about topics. And the beauty of America is I'm able to have an opinion, you're able to have an opinion, and we get to coexist. Yeah, that's very true. We get to live with our differing opinions. There are countries that you die for not thinking the same way as the government, hence North Korea. Right. We have places that literally kill people for feeling a different way. Yeah. Yeah, that is some perspective for you. Yeah, and I think we do have to appreciate that. That's what I think I, as an American citizen, have the most issues with when I see people online that have these meltdowns, just utter meltdowns over someone posting an article they didn't like. Yeah. And I think to myself, if you only knew how blessed you are to even be able to speak a differing opinion from somebody, it's insane. Yeah. Like, America's so spoiled. Yeah. And I think that's another reason why it trickles into people's mentality about the earth and the world as a whole, is that they feel they have these blinders on, these American blinders on, and they think that this is how everybody runs. Yeah. You don't, and actually I would say most countries throughout the world, it's not quite as open as we are with opinions and thoughts and being able to vocalize yourself so much. Like, everyone has a platform here. Yes, I agree. And to clarify, we are spoiled. But this is the greatest country on the planet Earth. And this is the thing that really lights me up, because I think, having my dad, your papa, be a military vet, and having dad be a first responder, and seeing the sacrifices, and having so many friends that are first responders and police officers and military. We are in the greatest place on the planet Earth, hands down. We're not perfect. Yeah. And I think that we are spoiled. There is no doubt about that. Should I let him in? Of course, we have scratching. We have our dog. He has anxiety. Of course, yes. So he's indecisive and likes to come and go. Case. Come on, bud. Case. Come on. And blind and old and deaf. You gotta tap him on the head. Poor guy. And smelly. Very. He smells like cheese. Poor old man. All right. Now he's inside. So I think it is just such an interesting conversation, because I see it all the time, and then you get to a point where you're tired and you don't feel you will have something of quality to say. You have a contribution, and you actually don't do it because you're like, oh man, I don't want to have to. And you have to. It takes discipline mentally and emotionally to decipher what is trolling and some asshole that just wants to post something obnoxious, which they're free to do. Yeah, like, exactly. Go for it, man. But it's still annoying. Well, and it's funny because I think, like, and we're not saying that this is one side or the other that does things more, because I've talked to people of differing political viewpoints who feel the exact same way as I do about the internet and the over obsession with correctness and correcting people. Like, I had posted an article that I knew was fake. It was on satire. It was a satire website, like The Onion or one of those. And I found it hilarious, so I just shared it. And I got like maybe 5 comments berating me about how it's fake, and I said, did you look at where the article came from? We're laughing about it. And it's funny because, like,
people try to kind of monitor your Facebook feed, and it's like, you know, if Facebook didn't want my content on there, they'd probably delete my profile. Or like maybe if what I was saying was hurting somebody, there'd be like some sort of flag on it because it's against the policy. Or wouldn't,
because there's all kinds of stuff that's out there.
But it's just funny that people as individuals feel like they need to go around and be like the correctness police or make sure that every voice is heard. But it's like, this is my Facebook feed. I post what I think is funny or entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel like it's everybody's job to monitor or filter what's on there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's funny about Facebook is there's this little unfollow button. If you press it, you're still friends with the person. You just don't see their stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I just find it so hilarious because it's my generation mostly that feels this sense, this urge to like, I have to comment. I must comment.
I don't know. I'd like to, I think that it's almost universal.
Well, maybe it's because I have mostly people my age.
Yeah, of course.
Facebook,
that's probably why. I mean, I would say the same thing. You see the same thing in my age group. You know, people feel the need to say something. And sometimes, you know, again, you have to process. Like the way I look at stuff often is, you know, I take everything with a grain of salt to some extent. I have respect for some people. There's others I just don't, because I think that the way that you carry yourself speaks volumes of character. And I have the right to have that opinion, just like other people have the right to have their opinion. And, you know, I process a lot of things like, it's not that it doesn't impact me, right? It just sometimes it can be exhausting and a little bit annoying. So, but I'm curious, like, not just about what we see online, but just what you see. So the difference between what you see in the media and on TV, what you see online, and then the truth when you're out there, when you're engaged with people.
Well, it's really funny because like the news makes it seem like we're this country that's divided and everybody has like beef with each other, because everything right now, or for the last, I don't know, 5 years has on the news has been politically oriented, because that's 90% of what the news is. But they portray people's beliefs and opinions as being one extreme or the other. Right. But when you go out and you actually talk to people, it is like, I could walk up to some random person walking down the street and say hi, and they're going to say hi back. They're going to be friendly. Like I don't think I've ever come across somebody that's just like completely ignored me.
That says, hey, before I say hi, and act like a human being to you. Who do you support?
Yes.
Yeah, that's just not the way it works.
No, and nobody's ever like that. And I think because of the online culture and the way that my generation carries these things like it's our life.
Well, we all do.
In my generation, I feel it has a deeper connection to it because that's where they live. Like, it's really weird. I'm not like that. I post maybe one time on Instagram every month or every 2 months. And then Facebook, I go and share funny stuff, but I'm not living through my device. Yeah. Which you'll see a lot of. Yeah. You'll see a lot of people posting every single day of their life, what they're doing, who they're talking to. Just, it has to be posted online.
You know what's interesting that you say that? It's almost like when you said living through the phone, living through your device.
Have you ever been to a concert? In the last 10 years?
Such a really good
This is concerts.
Perspective.
I've watched people.
You live through your device.
I've watched people watch concerts through, like, literally watch it through the phone, like this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the artist is right there. Move the phone out of your face. Right. You'd see the person. Like, I went to my favorite rapper's concert the other, like a month ago. And I think I videotaped, like, the beginning of a couple songs. But after I got a couple clips where I saw him in the video, I was like, okay, I'm putting it down.
You know what's going to happen?
What?
This is what's going to happen. This is my prediction. Because of that, sometime someone's going to come up with like a camera that you can embed in your forehead.
Oh, yeah.
That you put as a little chip under your skin.
I feel like it's going to be contact lenses.
Or contact lenses.
I think it's going to be
like
contacts.
Google Glasses, they tried that, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why those didn't take off, but you know, I can see, because now
people are scared of it right now.
Well, it could be, but we'll get over it, because this is what happens. This is what happens. And this is, if you don't see this, then you're absolutely blind, or I hate to say it, you might be dumb. Is that the way that any of this stuff works is they softly introduce something that seems a little bit radical, and we're like, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Who would have thought? Yeah. Who would have thought?
Do you remember the first iPhone when it came out?
Yeah, people thought it was nuts.
Yeah.
And others fell in love with it. But what they do is they'll introduce technology. They'll get influencers to buy in, like people that are going to, get you going. Any fad, anything that goes like that, softly introduce it till it becomes the new normal.
Yep.
Then push a little bit harder, see how far they can push. You got to pull it back maybe a little bit and push. Then it's the new normal. then push a little more, then it's a new normal. I mean, let's face it, we now have, voicing devices in our homes. We've gotten comfortable with the fact our privacy has been fully violated. Like, there is no escaping it.
None.
It is our new normal, right? So that everyone knows everything about everything. And now we have devices that literally have mics open in your home all day long, and we know it. It's not like we don't know this.
Yep.
And you're willing to do it because it's funny because convenient.
The first people that did that was the iPhone with Siri.
Of course. And it's interesting because even in I want to say Sweden, I could be totally wrong in this, but they're putting chips. So now you pay by you just tapping, you pay and tap. Now there's a chip that has all your ID and all your payment info, and you literally swipe your hand. Can you? What? Okay, but now that becomes a new normal. Yeah. So I'm saying that, like, can you imagine? Because, like you said, we lived through this. This has become our eyeballs, our ear, everything, which is really borders on a whole lot of cuckoo. But we do it.
Yep, everybody does
it. So imagine, and someone's going to come up with this now, a chip in your forehead that's thin, that's a camera you can activate from your phone. So now you can literally watch everything, but you're also recording when you want to.
Well, it's just funny because Chase and I always, and we don't make fun of people, but we joke around about this. A lot of the people on our feeds, on our Instagram or like our Facebook, when you scroll through and they've gone to a concert, like, guys, I don't need to see the entire hour-long concert on your Instagram story.
That's like you see stuff about fireworks. Like, we saw them too. We do not need to see your fireworks show.
And I'm guilty of posting a couple firework shots, but like, when you watch the whole hour concert on somebody's Instagram story, it's like, did this guy even actually see anything that was happening, or was it and that's again where you're like entirely a recording? Swipe.
And then now it's funny too because we have a whole new vocabulary.
Oh yeah,
like everyone knows what swipe left means or swipe right. Although I kind of don't because I've never been on the dating sites, but and swipe up. I mean, when I grew up. Swipe meant like maybe your nose. I mean, like there was no swiping, like what was that? It's just funny. And growing up.
Well, and there's even more acronyms now than there was when I was in like junior high and high school. Because when I was in junior high was when the acronyms were really starting. Yeah. When we had first gotten our
like JK,
our Razor phones, like the flip phones. And on the flip phones, you had I think it's called TI or something keyboard, where you had to click the number. And little kids, like people under the age of Adam's age, are never going to understand this. But you had to click the number 3 times to get a letter.
So it took forever.
To type things out because you don't have a full keyboard. Right. I remember when the first full keyboard phone came out and all of us were like, there's a full keyboard. Oh my God. Right. And Riker, like my fiance's brother, he's 16. He would have no idea. He's like, there weren't full keyboards?
Yeah.
What do you mean there wasn't a full keyboard?
When we had Blackberries. And I remember having... And this is not that long ago. That's what's insane.
Yep.
Like I remember
I'm only 24 and I've seen the evolution of I didn't ever see the first cell phone, that giant chunky block. Yes. But I saw the evolution from going to flip phones that were like these Nokia indestructible. You could throw it outside of a van and it would live, to this iPhone where you don't even have to type. You can speak to your phone and it'll type for you. Like, really weird how fast it happened. I had a little Virgin Mobile pay-as-you-go chunky little blocky phone, and it gave me 120 characters a month. Yep. I had 120 characters a month, and I think I got like maybe 8 phone calls or something. And the purpose of that phone was simply for emergencies. And now kids are growing up with an iPad in their face from the age of like 1.
Well, you're growing up with powerful computers that have become... Seriously, you have hit the nail on the head. We live through our devices.
Well, and then that gives you perspective on what my generation feels.
But then, on the flip side, and this isn't a pro-con conversation. This is simply, it is the reality, right?
Well, it's just a discussion. Like, this stuff's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating because it's evolution. Mm-hmm. It's just like when the first car came out, and
oh my God,
constantly referencing Gary Vaynerchuk, but it's like he talks about all the time where it's. Though. Yeah, that's true. He is pretty awesome. Where the idea is you can fight it, but the truth is the evolution happens. It is like anything. We evolved from being, on all fours to standing up. I mean, evolution happens. Yeah. So it's it's really about where you personally are comfortable, and you can choose to adopt or not adopt things. Like I'll tell you this right now, I will never put a chip in my body. That ain't going to happen. But I guarantee in the next decade that will be standard.
Oh yes, that will somewhere it'll start becoming the norm.
And I'm telling you, if somebody comes out with a camera chip that goes in your forehead, I'm going to count myself a genius.
I gotta say, I can smell Casey from here, and it's just
sorry about that. So, going back to the perspective of your generation and young people as a whole, like it's about, one of the things I'm super curious about, because my age group, Nana Papa's age group, we kind of saw life in a certain way. Like you were born, you went to school, you learned all that stuff, you tested well, you had to test well, you went to college, you graduate, you get a job at a company, you work at that company for as long as you possibly can.
And then you retire.
Because you look for the benefits and you invest, and the company gives you investment options. And then you retire, and then you become a grandparent maybe, and then you golf, and then you die.
Yep. And that is so far from my generation.
Right. And what's interesting is like, I would say our generation, my generation a little bit, you see people breaking away from it. Like I didn't follow that path.
Yeah.
So born, went to school, got good grades in high school because it was easy for me. And in grade school, I was in a gifted program. So the school was not hard, but I hated it. And then went to college and totally drop out. And, then go on to, work for Nana and Papa, which I never would have thought, and became very entrepreneurial in my mindset.
Yeah.
Like I never found the standard interesting, right? And so it wasn't about, and then, it kind of speaks to like how we value money and how we value stuff, right? Like consumerism. It's awesome in one respect. Like I'm a capitalist hardcore. Like I believe that the market determines what something is worth, and the market determines because it sets value. And if you as a producer of something, product or service, create value for a person and that person values it at X, they're going to spend X.
Yeah.
Cool. Done. Fair. Now there's always going to be somebody who tries to buck the system and rip people off. And then as a consumer, you have to be intelligent. You have to know what you value. But at the end of the day, if I value something, if I value this stapler because I love the color pink, and this to me is the ROI of the stapler to me is $20, and to you, you're like, that's a $2 stapler. If they charged, $20, I might spend it. You'd go, screw that. I'm not spending $20 on that thing. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it right, you go out of business. That's how consumerism works. But it kind of circling back to what makes people happy, and why is it that stuff makes some people happy, and why is it that collecting money makes some people happy, and why is it that other people could care less yet they're super successful?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like what you were saying about how Nana's generation is very much like you have to get a job, stay long term, retire. None of my generation thinks that way anymore. People are looking for the fastest, easiest way, but then there's other people that actually are willing to put in the effort. But the cool thing is with these, the possibilities are completely endless. I know several people who started businesses at 15 and literally are successfully selling items because of an iPhone. Because they had the internet at their fingertips for the longest time. Like Chase's brother was selling, this is the most genius thing ever. He was in 6th grade, and I don't know if people remember the tech decks, but they're those little mini skateboards that you use your fingers on.
We selling those?
He would buy them from the store, and he'd get those little kits where you can change out the wheels. He'd customize them and sell them for like $15 a piece. You can get a pack of those things for like maybe $5.
So that's entrepreneurial mindset.
He was flipping these things, and it was insane. I was like, how are you getting people to buy them? He goes, well, not everybody's parents go to the store and like let them buy them. So they'll give them lunch money. And I take it around the lunch tables, and anyone that hasn't spent their lunch money, I'll target them. And I'm like, this kid is a freaking genius.
All right, we got to talk to him. That's pretty impressive. That is impressive. Well, and that's the thing. You can you could, anybody on the planet, well, anyone who has access to this, which is almost anyone in this country, because statistically, I think there's like 2.3 or whatever devices in every home,
every household,
or in fact, in every person's possession.
Yeah.
Like, we all have multiple mobile devices, but you do. The internet is changed the world in so many ways, in that you have access to every little piece of information.
Jobs are so different. Like, if you look at, there's so many kids that want to be YouTubers or influencers because their sole job is posting a photo online and getting paid for it. Like, Kylie Jenner will make over $1 million per Instagram post of an ad that she's doing. Now, granted, Kylie Jenner came out of the womb famous, so that's a little bit easier for her.
Different.
But there's people that came from like Ohio. Like, I know this girl influencer who came from Columbus, Ohio, and she gets paid probably like $20,000 to $30,000 per Instagram ad that she does, and that's one avenue of her business. She also does a YouTube channel where if she posts an ad on there, I'm going to estimate $20,000 a video. Not only that, they send her the product for free.
Yeah.
So
there are so many people that
so many kids want to do that, but the problem is it's not as easy as it seems. You're not just going to post a photo and a brand's going to reach out and say, "Hey, let me send you our product." No, you have to build that following first.
This is another point,
and you do that free.
That I think is interesting. And again, it's not a judgment; it's a statement of curiosity, and that is that there are those who get it, who are willing to put in the work. It isn't as easy as it looks.
No, not at all.
Here's what it boils down to when we talk about opportunity, and what makes this country so great is that there's the freedom to access that opportunity. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get it. No. And it definitely doesn't mean if somebody else put in the work and they succeeded and got it, that you're entitled to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It means you have the opportunity. You could go to the freaking library and get on the internet and do the work if you chose to. And
and it's hard.
It takes time.
Endless hours.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, some of these kids get lucky, like the Logan Pauls and the Jake Pauls. The reason that those two are so massive is when they started, Vine was a huge platform. Vine is comparable nowadays to what is TikTok, but it was a little bit more janky. Like, if you look back at some Vines that Jake Paul and Logan Paul did, and by the way, for those of you who don't know who they are, 20 million followers on YouTube, 20 million followers on Instagram. That's big time famous. And they got that from making these really dumb at-home Vines.
But they're funny.
And Vines were 7 seconds.
Yeah.
They took 7 seconds. And that generation got a little bit luckier with the Vine world because it was much easier to get big on Vine. However, doesn't mean it didn't involve work. One of their Vines, which is 7 seconds long, would take them up to 24 hours to film, edit, and post.
And they thought through it. And here's the other thing. They saw the platform, they saw the future and the potential of the platform, and they leveraged it.
100%. And they're geniuses. Both of them are very, very, very smart. And if you look at their whole tactic, at first they were doing whatever's craziest to get me seen. Mm-hmm. That didn't end so well for both of them. They both went through these times where people absolutely despised them.
But they pushed it and they learned.
Well, and the cool thing is that they took that opportunity of pure failure. Like, Logan Paul had been caught filming he posted a YouTube video. He filmed a dead guy in the suicide forest in Japan, and it was like huge deal. Like, actual news platforms were covering this, and he's a social media star. You don't ever see that on news platforms. So he took a huge crash, and if you look at his numbers, there's a website called Social Blade. This is another my generation thing.
Yeah.
All of my generation knows what this is. Social Blade is like a website that tracks their income and progress and their followers on their YouTube channels. I recommend you look at it because it's quite interesting to see. Yeah. Especially if you like those fitness people you follow. Yeah. Look at Social Blade at their accounts. It tells you like their revenue streams and all that, and it's not accurate. We'll be honest, it's not accurate. YouTube is only paying ad-wise. They're not making that much money from ads. Yeah, Logan Paul says he doesn't make anything from YouTube right now. I don't think
many of them make much money that way.
So Social Blade's not all that accurate, but you saw his Social Blade after that incident, and it was tanked. Yeah. Like, tanked beyond belief. Like, if you were him, you probably would have thought my career is fully over. However, his mindset was, there's no way I'm letting my career be over. Yeah. So he took a break. He stepped back for like a month and a half, 2 months, which for a social media star is a long time. A couple hours is a long time for a social media star.
Yeah.
So 2 months, that's basically like 2 years in social media world. When he came back, he started a totally new platform, which was his podcast, where he's actually letting people get to know him. If you look at his old videos, it's so dumb. Like, I could not watch Logan Paul before he started this podcast. I hated him. I hated everything.
Do you think it speaks to the maturity?
Heck
so it's an evolution of the actual character online.
Yeah, and you watch him on his podcast. You've seen his podcast.
I found it entertaining. I'm 51.
Yeah,
for God's
and
sake.
so he allowed himself to open up, and I think a lot of people now on the internet are realizing they're going with the very Gary Vee model. Just post whatever. Like, it's not about how quality it is or how much editing you've done or how much you've spent on the video. If you're passionate about what you're putting out, someone's going to gravitate towards it. Yeah. And someone's going to catch your drift. Like, he took a total turn, and it was insane to me.
Well, and I think, too, checking out, like, what I'm super curious about. So I go down the bunny hole all the time on YouTube and other platforms. Not because it's necessarily that I'm obsessed with the character, although many people do, and that's what resonates. I'm so curious about their process. And what they're doing. So I followed, like you said, the fitness. There's a few fitness people. I'm going to throw them out there. Not that this is going to make a difference for them at all, but there's a few. Christian Guzman is one of them that I am. And the reason, okay, so this is weird, why I'm so interested in why I follow him, because he's about your age, maybe a little bit older.
Yeah.
I almost look at him like his parents. And I see him engaging.
Yeah.
And so I look at him, and I've been watching for probably now almost 4 years. Started watching him. And this is the bunny hole. So this is how it happens. When we first moved here, and it was just Adam and I here, and he was starting football. And so my son Adam is now 18. We moved here when he was 15, starting freshman in high school here in Texas. And so he was watching Bro Science. He's hilarious, absolutely obnoxious. I admit that Adam and I watch inappropriate stuff together because it's funny, like Family Guy and other shows like that, because they're hilarious and you have to have the maturity to understand the jokes. But anyway, so I'm like, this guy's really funny. Started watching it, then watched he's friends with Bradley Martin, so I watched his videos.
So you just got,
and then I'm like, this guy's really interesting. Again, young person, could be my child. And so the reason I was curious is I almost felt this sense of pride for them. Like, man, if that were like you're their parent, like, wow, this kid's doing so well, and they're really growing. And then that led to a bunch of other fitness people who are about your age. And I'm watching them thinking, this is so amazing. This kid has, and now young man, and certainly an adult, a grown man, but has done remarkably well by doing the right thing, by creating really good stuff. He's motivating a lot of people. So it's just really interesting. So it's like the whys of why people get obsessed around this stuff. My why isn't because I'm obsessed with the storyline per se, like, because a lot of it's what you'd call reality TV. Let's face it. All the YouTube, the social media people get involved with each other, and there's all this drama, and it becomes much more like reality TV. But what I'm watching for is their evolution and how they're building these businesses and how well they're doing. How I feel this almost in turn as a parent, like, wow, that I'm so proud. I feel so like good for them. Like, that's so exciting. And that, again, going back to the theme of this conversation around how we see the world and our mindsets and what is happiness, what fulfills us, is that when I look at that stuff, there's going to be two different perspectives. There's people who watch that stuff and they're the trolls and they make nasty, snarky comments because they're jealous or they're envious or whatever. And then there's people who are just engaged in the storyline and they're entertained. And then there's, I look at that and I feel a sense of like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so excited that somebody like this young person put all this energy and work into it. And I buy their stuff. I might not even wear it because let's face it, I'm 51. I shouldn't be wearing like little crop top hoodies, but I buy it because it's like this, I'm a proud parent.
You're like investing in their business.
Yeah, because I just am so pleased as a citizen of the country, to be like, wow, there are kids out there that are making a difference and doing these really cool things and building these businesses.
Well, it's a ton of work.
It's a ton
Those
of
things
work.
aren't easy to do. You can't just build a multi-million person following and following by just posting one video or like being lazy about it. They spend their entire days focused on that stuff.
And it takes guts. You got to put yourself out there.
When you mention like there's trolls on there, I actually think that there are people, like most of the people in the comments that are saying things that are nasty. Have psychological issues.
They could. Yeah.
Because I've never once been so impacted by somebody's video that I felt the need to sit there and say, "You're ugly.
Yeah.
I hate you.
Right.
Why do you suck?"
Right.
And that's literally comments that you see on people's posts. And I've never felt compelled in my life to say
it is interesting.
Do you know what I'm
Why?
saying? Like, I've never felt such a passion or hatred towards somebody that I felt the need to take time out of my day to comment on their video saying, "This sucks."
Right.
The only time I ever comment on a video is if I love it so much and I'm like, "Wow, great stuff." Like a lot of the makeup artists I follow, they ask for suggestions, so I give input. If I have ever said anything that wasn't positive, it's never that I'm saying I don't like you or I don't think you're good enough. It's, hey, maybe next time when you show the product, show us the details on it first because it's a little bit easier to understand. It's never like, "That sucked. Why would you show us the back of the packaging?" Like, I never ever have felt compelled to tell someone they suck.
Yeah, that's a really good point and that might lead into our next conversation about mental health. In fact, that is going to be our next. So stay tuned because the next conversation I want to talk about that because I think that the mental health of our society needs to be addressed.
And young people.
Especially in young people. And in really establishing, we talked about this earlier about like helping you navigate anxiety. We, in this big, beautiful thing, this gray mass that sits in our skulls, is we have built in not only a pharmaceutical store, like our brains have it all in there.
Oh, yeah.
We have everything we need in there. And unless there has been trauma to that mechanism, this big, beautiful thing that sits in our skulls, then it's all there.
Yeah.
And the challenge that we faced as a society is that we haven't been properly educated, I think, on the power that exists there and how to tap into it, how to leverage what's there to work through tough times.
Oh, yeah.
To tap into what God gave us as this incredible thing that is our body and our mind. And so I think that's a great conversation for next time. And what time is it?
We're at like 35 minutes.
Okay, we'll probably wrap it up here because this is like, I love talking about this stuff because it's so interesting. Like,
well, and there's a lot of opinions that every human has on all this.
Well, of course, that's what makes us so interesting.
That's what makes you human is that you have opinions.
Here's the other thing, that we can change our mind. Like our opinions can change.
Oh, yeah.
So I might have an opinion on one thing one week and then I'm educated about something or I'm provided more facts. It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
Like none of us know everything about everything.
No.
We're never gonna. So, we have opinions, we make educated decisions based on what we have in front of us. We do the best we can. And I think a majority of people do the best they can, but it boils down to intent.
Yeah.
Life is about, I think, the intent you have. So, if intent is hurtful and negative, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And I think that again, that'll tie back to the mental health of our society and where that goes awry.
Oh yeah.
Like how we lose ourselves in that and what is it we can do for each other to help remind ourselves that we're all here trying to do the best we can, and pull people back into, on track to being a good human being.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And how happiness can be different for every person. There are people who are absolutely thrilled. Every morning they wake up with a smile on their face. They're happy people because they found joy in something in the conversations they have, and their job is to clean a porta potty.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was growling stomach.
I wonder if your mic caught that.
That'd be funny if it did. So there are people that are thrilled to do that. There are people who are thrilled to do dirty jobs. They like doing dirty jobs. That's their thing, and they're happy. And I think happiness is something that the pursuit of it's not, and this is where it's a conversation I have with Dad all the time. happiness isn't a place that you go find.
Yeah.
Happiness isn't a pill that you take. Happiness isn't a product that you buy. Happiness isn't a outfit that you wear. Happiness is the journey the whole way.
Yeah.
It's the thing, and maybe that's a t-shirt slogan. Happiness is the thing.
Yeah.
It is not a destination.
Yeah, it's like the whole, when I get to this point, then I'll be happy. When I get here, then I'll be happy. That's never going to work.
No, it's
because then once you get there, you're thinking about the next thing. So. Yep.
And here's the other thing that I think is interesting too, is that if we were to break down our day into those micro moments, if we focused on just one moment at a time, if you're really struggling, because let's face it, every day, there are days I wake up, I'm like, oh crap. Or the email that comes in and I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
That happens. There's no question about it. And it happens probably more often than I'd like it to. But, when you look at each one of those things like, okay, this is just a moment.
Yeah.
Let me think through it. Let's just go, you navigate it, you move beyond, you go to the next one. And if you make sure that within every moment you've stacked up something good in it.
Yeah.
It's like having a cell, and we have all the little parts of a cell, and you have the nucleus. If within that cell, at least there's something good and healthy in it, then you stack those all up and you have a healthy body, right?
Yep.
So I think that just something that simple, and why we all struggle sometimes with trying to find that answer is so interesting.
I think it's part of human nature,
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, and it is, when you think about it, like all the different things that are out there and the things people sell to try to make you feel better. I mean, there is capitalism right there.
100%.
It's just making sure that people aren't taking advantage of other people. And that's where, you move into gray area, and it goes back to intent.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It goes back to intent.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I love having these conversations. So this is really as we navigate through this and we continue to have our little chit chats, it's like coffee with mom and daughter.
Yeah. Except for without the coffee.
Without maybe water and a Dr. Pepper, because we're in Texas. And this isn't a plug, but I do love Dr. Pepper. I will say that.
Dr. Pepper is the best soda ever. Argue me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that one. So what I'd like to do, though, in the future, next conversation we're going to have is going to be about mental health. I think that's a good one, and there's a lot to talk about that. So we'll talk a little bit longer. Mental health, medication, and the violence that we're seeing in society, and how to mitigate that. And what we can do on the ground level, what we can do as individuals to help mitigate that. I don't think it has to be policy driven. I think it has to be conversation driven.
Yeah.
Within the relationships that we have. But what I'd like to do also is start to bring people in. We're going to start talking to people, whether it be friends or whether it be people that we want to, bring in and talk to.
And we'd also love to hear thoughts or topic ideas, and we're open to anything, because we're both very we could talk a lot. So any ideas, tell us, comment, also give a review, because I actually just figured out that on Podbean specifically, reviews help the podcast get seen. So give us a review.
Please.
That'd be sweet. We haven't said that before on any of the other episodes because we're learning. So do that for us. And then we do have the YouTube channel, which the visual is going to be on. So subscribe to that. I hope I'm pointing in the right direction.
We'll just point everywhere, wherever we put it. Okay.
Woo!
There we go. Got it covered.
Do it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening and or watching. This is Michele Allman.
Alex Allman.
With The Red Notebook. Have an awesome week. We'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Adios.